Good morning, Creating Magic Vacations travelers. Welcome to today's show. It's Saturday, July 25th. I know I normally do these on Sundays, but I had a day off from my training classes, so I figured why not go today? Um, Wanted to welcome you all. I have some really fun information to share with you guys today, and I am definitely looking forward to going through some of the different things that we have. And one of the things you definitely want to keep on the show for is to find out towards the end one of the really cool experiences that you can do at Disney World. Sorry, Dad, Juliana's not actually here today. This is just one that I'm doing, so you're stuck with me, I guess. So, but today we're going to talk about a couple different things. First of all, really exciting news. Disney World is back open. So people are able to travel. They did just open up travel to, what's it called? They did just open up creating new reservations for 2020, but they will be, as well as the fact that 2021 reservations opened up a couple weeks ago. So if you are looking to go, please let me know. I'd love to help you plan everything, and we'll be able to go from there. So on to the show. First of all, Disney is open. Like I said, there are some changes, as you would expect with everything that's going on right now with COVID-19. They did have to make a lot of changes. The first one being the fact that there are no character meet and greets right now. I know that'll be sad for some people, but they did need to do that just to try to keep everybody safe, as well as just trying to keep their own staff members safe. That being said, they have tried to integrate some other really cool things that I actually hope they keep as they move on from just this portion of what is going on in the world. Main thing that they're doing, obviously, is they're trying to keep everybody safe. So they've eliminated anything where there's very close interactions, with the exception of, obviously, dining, because you have to eat there. That's really the only really close interactions you're going to have with cast members, as well as like getting on and off the rides. They have also instituted some new security protocols. They've brought in some new systems in the fact that they are now they've upgraded a lot of their security things. There's times where you don't have to take things out of your pockets anymore to walk through the detectors. They don't have to always go through your bag anymore unless the sensors catch something that shouldn't be coming into the park. They have sped up getting through security, which is really exciting for when we get back to full capacity. Because right now they're not giving us an exact number, but it appears as if they're keeping it at about 30% capacity. So if you have the opportunity and we can get you a reservation and you do want to go, it's definitely an exciting time to go because, well, let's be honest, if I can wait 5 minutes for every single ride, I'm kind of excited about that. They're not doing a lot of the shows right now, mainly because that's an enclosed space that they would have to space everybody out, and it would be a huge headache for the cast members. So currently the shows are not running, but they are doing a lot of other things to try to compensate for that. Additionally, when you go, you will need to wear a mask. Now, Disney and actually Universal just updated their requirements. They updated theirs yesterday. Disney's had theirs since they opened. Neck gaiters are no longer allowed. I'm not sure exactly why. There hasn't really been an explanation one way or the other, but if you do want to go, you do have to have a mask. And in that, they do mandate that it does have ear straps. Now, if you do have the thing that connects behind your head, that's still okay because you still have the ear straps. But it does have to have straps that go behind your head because, well, that's what the mandate is in Florida now. So Disneyland is not open yet, with the one exception of Downtown Disney. That is slowly reopening, but the rest of it, California has put on hold from reopening still. So hopeful that they'll get it open sometime soon, but obviously we do have to see just based on keeping everybody safe, because if we're not keeping everybody safe, then really the rest of it doesn't matter that much. The other thing to be aware is the fact that if you are traveling to Florida, there are quite a few states that do require you to quarantine for 14 days when you get home. And states are starting to come up with different ideas on how to enforce this. I know in New York, they're requiring you to actually fill out a form where you were when you traveled. And I don't know exactly how they're following up on that, but they're claiming they're following up on that, and there are substantially large fines if you don't actually follow the quarantine laws. Florida is still requiring a 14-day quarantine for anybody coming from New York, New Jersey, or Connecticut. So because of that, I don't see a lot of people from that area traveling right now, just because if you have to quarantine for 14 days when you get down there and then 14 days when you get back, you're looking at 28 days, and that doesn't even count your vacation. And I don't know about your employers, but mine are looking at me going, no, you're not taking a month and a half off just so you can go to Disney World. As much as I would love that, and as much as they don't mind if I travel, that's definitely not happening right now. One of the really cool things that they have instituted is something they're calling their character cavalcades. And what this is instead of parades, because they're not doing parades right now, and they're not doing the castle shows right now, is randomly, so that way they can't cause the big crowds to congregate and try to wait around for a parade, is they will have what they call character cavalcades. And they spent a lot of money on these cars and designing them to match each one of the actual characters that's going to be in them. So Buzz Lightyear's, his convertible looks somewhat outer space themed. And then they have ones for Goofy and Mickey and Minnie. And the cool part is even though you're not able to do those character meet and greets, because there's not a lot of people on the actual street as they're going down, they really do wave at the few people that are there. And so you can get some good selfies and things like that with them in the background. And it does create a different experience, and actually a pretty fun one that I really hope they keep. The biggest thing is, if you do want to see these, try to stay around the main hub, which is that circle right in front of Magic Kingdom. And then also, while you're staying there, just listen for the music, because the music changes from what it normally is, which is generally a light, airy feeling, to the music that would match the characters that are coming out. And they are themed. So each one of the groups that comes out is grouped together. So you could have like Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Daisy, Goofy. You can also get one that has like the Toy Story characters or other things. And they keep them grouped, which is fun because you may see things that you wouldn't normally see. And they did put an investment in this. So I'm really hoping that they keep this going beyond just this time frame. Those are the main changes. If you are planning on going, please talk to me. I do want to work with you and help you understand all the things that are changing throughout Disney World as it goes. But those are the main things for today. And so now we'll move on to what I like to call our main segment, which is Disney World Free Under 3. This is something that Disney World does, and a lot of different theme parks do, is that until a child turns 3, you don't have to buy an admission ticket for them. Disney does some extra things that kind of entice you a little more to go there. But the whole theory is basically, if your child's not 3 years old, they're not going to get the same experience as someone older. But what I do want to say is, please do not limit yourself to just the experience after they turn 3. Because what I can say, and I'm sure my wife Tammy can attest to this as well, is the experience changes every time. So both of our kids went before they turned 3, and they've both been back multiple times since. And the experience has changed every time, and it's just amazing to see them grow while you're there. So, for example, Juliana, we took her when she was about a year and a half old. Well, we have this amazing picture of her while we were waiting to get into the Crystal Palace. She was standing up on her tiptoes trying to look over the fence and see the castle in the distance. And that's not a picture you're going to get a couple years later, because they're going to be tall enough, they're not going to have to get on their tiptoes. And B, they're not always enamored with things or trying to look around as much. Little kids really love to look around and see all the different things that are changing and see all the things that they're experiencing. And good morning, Grandma. Welcome to the show. So it definitely is something that I say, don't hesitate to go if your kids are younger, because honestly, it's an incredible experience. And yes, they're not going to be doing the roller coasters, but as you'll see today, you have more than enough to fill a day. And the other thing is, when the kids are younger, it's actually a more relaxing Disney vacation because they take naps. So as Tammy and I did, we also took naps when the kids took naps. So it gave us that opportunity then to really be comfortable, take our time to go through the park, not feel rushed. And we knew we weren't going to be able to do everything. And so because of that, it definitely was something that we were able to just enjoy the time that we were there and experience the things instead of worrying about, oh, we got to rush to this ride or we got to make sure we're hitting this. You don't have to do that on any trip, but really, especially when you have little ones, it makes it so much nicer just to be able to experience the parks and be able to look around and see all of the amazing theming that Disney does, because they do so much amazing theming in their parks. Just as you walk from area to area, the transitions that exist, and the fact that you look back and it's like you're in that world that they want you to feel like you're in. So it does give you a lot of opportunities to experience things that you might not even take the time to if you had older kids. Some of the other cool things is, so because they're free, they also, you don't have to pay for them if you're going to like a buffet or something. They eat off of your plate. That being said, I have, when we've done sit-down meals, they're supposed to be eating off your plate, but what I'll say, in my experience at least, and I don't know if this has changed since they've reopened or anything, but they've almost always brought our kids a meal even when they were under 3. So I can't think of a single time where they didn't say, and what does so-and-so like? Because I remember Juliana and Tammy and I, one of our first meals we ate at Cinderella's Royal Table, which is the meal where you get to meet all the princesses in Cinderella's castle. First of all, an amazing experience, and it is something, especially if you have kids that love princesses, to me, it's a can't miss. And I understand that there is price factors and everything else to deal with that. But it's one of those experiences that really just, I'll never forget some of the things that happened at that one meal. And because not only do you get to meet the princesses, but you get to eat in the castle, which let's be honest, for any little kid, and I'll group myself in there, it's a dream come true, because you see that castle and you see everything that is an icon of Disney World. So being able to look out those windows and see Magic Kingdom while you're eating is incredible. Additionally, you get a photo op with Cinderella, and you also get to meet multiple, I think it's 4 other princesses. They're not always the exact same. I know for the most part we've seen Jasmine, we've seen Princess Aurora, Ariel, and I don't remember I think it was Snow White was last time as well. But you get to meet these princesses. They do take the time at each table, because the dining room's not a massive dining room. You can't fit a massive amount of tables up there. You're inside the castle. So it does give you that opportunity to do that. Like I did say though, the meet and greets right now are not happening. So that does include character dining. They are trying to do some cool things with character dining. So for example, at Topolino's Terrace, which is in the Riviera Resort, that's the only character dining that's happening right now. And with that one, what they're doing is the characters are going to each of the corners of the restaurant, and they're kind of doing like a dance show instead. So you're not going to meet them per se, but you definitely get to see them, and the kids get excited just because the characters walk out. And honestly, in our case, if it was Nello, he might have been more excited about that, because he was never a huge fan of meeting characters. The only character that he gave a hug last time we were there was Donald Duck, and I still don't know what he loves about Donald over everybody else, but that was his attachment. So, like I said, with the dining, it's something that you have enough food for yourself and for the kids most of the time anyways, so really it's not a big deal if you do have to share off your plate. But like I said, in my experience, a lot of times they offer a meal for the child that's under 3 as well. The other really cool thing that Disney does in every single one of their parks is they have what they call a baby care center. Now, the baby care center has a room for nursing moms that's only for the mom and the baby. They also have a quiet area that you can sit, and all of this is air conditioned, and all of it's contained inside one building. They have an area that's air conditioned for, like, if you're changing one child, then the parent with the other kids can be in the other room, and they have like a TV going. They have some games that the kids can play there, and it's a nice little sitting area. And then they do have changing tables all around in one room, and there's probably like 10 changing tables in one room, and they line them all with paper and everything, and they wipe them down every single time somebody leaves, and it does make it very nice, and it feels comfortable to go in there and change your child, because you see how much they're actually cleaning it. Not that they're not cleaning the bathrooms as well, which all have changing tables in them as well, but it's just a different peace of mind for me that, hey, you know what, I just saw them put a fresh piece of paper on there, so that way I know that everything is new for my child, and I don't have to worry about what anybody else did right before me there. The other thing is they do have a shop there that you can pick up all the essentials that you need for the babies, whether it's bottles, formula, baby food. If you forgot, say you ran out of diapers because your child just happened to have a very full morning and they decided that they were going to go through 3 or 4 diapers that day, and then that's all you had brought to the park. They have diapers, they have wipes. So they have all those things that in an emergency you can go grab, and obviously they're selling them to you, but it's something that at least allows you to not have to go back to the hotel or go to a store or something to go pick it up. Now, I kind of classify what you can do with children under 3, and really the other way to put this now is it's things you can do without a height requirement. So if your kids are shorter, they might be over 3 and they can't do a lot of things still. I've never experienced that, mainly because, as you might have guessed, with my wife and I being over 6 feet each, our kids at 4 years old almost had no restrictions. So a little bit different experience for us than what some other people might experience. But kids that are 4 and 5 are not always the 40 inches tall that you need to be to get on some of the rides. So this gives you that opportunity to understand exactly what there is to do. And I break it out really into 3 groups. First of all, the shows, because shows anybody can do, and there's a lot of them at every park. So there's definitely a lot of different opportunities to do different things like that. The second one is the rides, and like I had said before, there's rides that do have height requirements. So you want to be careful exactly what rides you're choosing, so that way then you can make sure you're not trying to go on a ride where one of your kids isn't going to. The other thing is I just classify it as other, because they're different. There are other experiences that kind of I just group together. One last thing to talk about before we move on to the shows, rides, and the other things is Disney also does something that they call rider swap. Now, what rider swap is basically you can wait in the line, and if say you have somebody in your party who is not the height requirement. So say, for example, they need to be 48 inches and they're only 42 inches. In that instance, what you can do is you talk to the cast member before you go onto the ride, or before you actually enter the queue, and tell them, and they're going to give you a pass that it's basically a rider swap pass. Part of your party will go through and ride the ride. Then after that, they'll come back and give the tag to the rest of the group, and the rest of that group will then go on the ride, and then you don't have to worry about leaving the child behind or having the child wait for you while you finish, because the second group will go through the fast pass line and they'll be able to get on and off a little quicker. So it'll allow them to go through the entire experience, and anybody who wants to go on it can, but then you don't have to worry about anybody who can't go on it waiting in the line the entire time and not being able to do anything. So now on to the shows. First of all, what I would say is each park is, the shows they're loaded with at every single park. One of the ones that has been the longest running, and they technically classified in Magic Kingdom, even though it's outside of Magic Kingdom in the lagoon outside of it, is the electric water pageant. That has been up until the park shut down for COVID-19. That ran every single day since 1977. It was the longest running show in the world. Unfortunately, it did end. That run did end when the park shut down, but they are planning on bringing it back once they bring back other shows as well. The cool part is it has about 12 floats that all go through the lagoon. They're all light up floats, so you can see everything on them. They'll have anything from like a dragon to all of a sudden I'm forgetting all the other ones, but they have there's 12 different floats. They theme to different things, and they're all themed around Disney as well, so that's fun as well. They also do parades, not at the moment, but they do parades that generally run 3 or 4 times a day. And again, you're going to see a lot of characters there. And it's something that I'm not a huge person on waiting for parades, but I like to try to plan my day so I can stumble across them. So I won't be in the front row, but we'll be able to see them still. And when you're in the back row, it doesn't really matter as much, because then you can, like, if you can put your kids on your shoulders and stuff, they can still see everything. And then you don't have to wait the whole time until the actual until the parade starts. At Magic Kingdom, they also have what we call castle shows, and those are the shows that are right in front of the castle. They have a stage that's built there that they do a lot of fun things with. The first one, to kick off the day, they do a Let the Magic Begin show. So in that show, the fairy godmother will announce that Magic Kingdom is open, and she'll do her magic and bibbidi bobbidi boo, and then you'll be able to progress in the park. But there is some things that happen before that are all really fun with interacting with the characters. Throughout the day, they do the Royal Friendship Fair, and this one actually, every time it's going and I happen to be walking past, I stop and I watch it. I've seen it probably 15 times at this point, and I still enjoy it every time. It's just a fun little show. The kids enjoy it because there's a lot of characters in it. There's a bunch of princesses. There's a bunch of the core Disney characters as well. So it is a fun one for the kids to see as well as the adults. And then at night, this now is my favorite show at Disney World, and that's Happily Ever After. This one is incredible because they have projections on the castle. So the castle is going to be lit up to match the music, to match the movie that they're doing the music with, and the fireworks will be themed to match that as well. It is an incredible experience. Tinkerbell does fly from the castle to above Tomorrowland Terrace. 1 second, sorry. And honestly, I get a little teary-eyed every single time she flies. I don't know why, but that part I always do. And one of the things that we did last time we were there that I felt was a perfect experience for what we were doing was the fact that we did a dessert party, because we were there on New Year's Eve. And New Year's Eve is the busiest day of the year for Disney World. So, for example, just to kind of give you an idea what parks were like that day, we used our 3 fast passes in the morning, and then I think we got 2 or 3 the entire rest of the day. You just had to wait in lines that day. The other thing is that not only were you not able to get fast passes, but everything had longer waits. Peter Pan, I think, was 2.5 hours. At 11:30 a.m., they cut off entrance to Magic Kingdom. They did their Tier 1 shutdown. And one of the things Tammy's saying is that she definitely recommends the party because, and I agree with her, because what we did was we literally didn't have to worry about waiting in the crowds. We had our own dedicated seat. We had food waiting for us. We had tons of desserts waiting for us, and we got there about an hour to 45 minutes before the show, whereas access to in front of the castle was closed off an hour before the show. So literally, it was so packed in front of the castle that they were not allowing people in front of it anymore for that show. So you had to go, you were either behind the castle, you were in Tomorrowland, you were in Adventureland, but you could not be in front of that castle. And this was the earlier show. This was the 7 p.m. show. This wasn't the midnight show. So it definitely was something that I agree was 100% worth it, and definitely made sense for us to do it because of what the crowds were. But even if they're not, if you don't want to have to stake out the perfect spot, this is a great option, because not only do you get the desserts, and the kids love the fact that they get to go up and choose their own, and there's all these different things. Oh, and Juliana, yes, I know how much you love the chocolate cake push-up pops that they had. Those were really cool, and at some point I probably should figure out how to actually make those. But it definitely was something that, like, they got to choose their own desserts. They got to sit and watch the entire show without feeling like it was claustrophobic and people were right on top of you. Not all people are as respectful to space as others. So this is one way to kind of avoid some of that, because then you sit there and you have your own space. It's your dedicated space, and people aren't going to move up to be next to you. And so it definitely was something that was worth it. So I know Juliana absolutely loved the chocolate cake push-up pops, and probably between her and Tammy, they had probably like 10 of them. Nello, I think, had one. I had one. My favorite was the cheeseburger egg rolls. Those were phenomenal. I at some point want to figure out how to make those too, because I missed them now. But there were different options for everybody, and there were different options as far as, like, if you had food allergies, those sort of things. They had different non-alcoholic drink offerings as well. So they had sparkling cider for us because it was New Year's Eve. So all the kids and us, we got to toast to New Year's with the Disney flutes and the sparkling cider and everything. And yes, I understand we did the earlier one, so technically it wasn't midnight, but apparently Tammy thinks I had more than one of those. I felt like I only had one of those, and then I had like 15 of the cheeseburger egg rolls. But it definitely was a cool experience. It's something that we wouldn't have gotten in a different place. And also the other really amazing part is Tinkerbell flew right over our heads. So as she's flying from the castle to above Tomorrowland Terrace, because you're on the terrace, she flies right over your head. And it's just a really cool, magical experience that you wouldn't get to see in other places. Other things that they do. They have, when we don't have these restrictions, they have a lot of character meet and greets actually at Magic Kingdom as well. So you can meet Ariel at her grotto. You can meet Buzz Lightyear in Tomorrowland. Princess Fairy Tale Hall routinely has 4 different princesses. It's 2 different lines to see them, but there's 4 princesses that you can see. Pete's Silly Sideshow. They have, it's Donald, Daisy, Minnie, and it might be Mickey. No, Donald. No, okay, I forget. But anyways, there's 4 characters that are all themed to be circus themed. So you have the Great Goofini, who is he's a trick. I can't think of the word now. And he basically does like tricks on his motorcycles and stuff like that. And so one cool experience we were there in the summer one time, and it was earlier on in the fact that people didn't realize it was there really that much. So we walked into the queue, and there was nobody in the queue. So Goofy, deciding to have fun, started running through the queue towards us. And Juliana, because she was a year and a half old at the time, saw Goofy running, so she had to run towards him. And so they ran and met in the middle before, and then he held her hand as they walked back through the queue to get to where the pictures were. And it's little things like that you're not going to get those experiences as they get older, because when they're getting to 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, they're not going to run to the character for the most part. But when they're younger, you definitely get that opportunity. And it's a lot of fun to watch them do that. Also, there are a lot of shows that are done in Magic Kingdom. So things like Hall of Presidents, or my all-time favorite is Carousel of Progress. Nice part about a lot of these inside shows, especially with little kids, is you get that respite from the heat, especially for them because they can overheat easier than we can. So you get that respite from the heat, and you get to be entertained the whole time as well. There are other ones as well, like Mickey's PhilharMagic, Country Bear Jamboree, which is a show that I find hilarious is even in Disney, because if as an adult, if you listen to the jokes, they're pretty inappropriate jokes, but then the kids get them at a different level, and so they find a lot of the jokes funny, or they find things funny about the show that adults may not find as funny. They definitely have written this to play at many different levels, as well as the Enchanted Tiki Room, Enchanted Tales with Belle, and then Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor is another one. I know we talked about this a few weeks back, but it is a semi-interactive show where they actually call on people in the crowd, and the characters that are in the show will interact with you, and it is a really funny show. I was nervous the first time because I was afraid I was going to get called on, and I'm not, as crazy as it is that I do this all the time, I'm still not a huge fan of speaking in front of a lot of people that I don't know. But it definitely gives you the opportunity to laugh, enjoy yourself, and they did a great job with the show. One of the other things, or so moving on to Epcot now, they do a lot of, their shows are a little bit different in the fact that they have quite a few shows around World Showcase, because they want you to learn about the cultures that are there. So there's things like in World Showcase, Canada Far and Wide, Impressions de France, Reflections of China, The American Adventure. All of those are shows that you can go into where you're definitely learning something about the culture. You're definitely being entertained as well. And again, getting that respite from the heat. Some of the ones that the kids are probably going to be more attracted to are Beauty and the Beast Sing-Along. That this is a newer show that alternates with Impressions de France, and it gives the kids something that they can enjoy as well. There's also Turtle Talk with Crush. This is probably one of my favorite shows on property because it's never been the same. The fact that they have Crush talking to the kids, and the fact that he not only talking to kids but interacting with them. It's not like he's talking at the kids. He literally will tell the person who is in the cast member who's inside the studio with you that, I want to talk to the girl with the purple and white striped shell, meaning her shirt. And then the cast member will walk over with a microphone, and that kid can ask Crush a question. And these kids aren't plants. These kids legit are asking questions, and they're different questions every time. And every single time, Crush has some unique answer that really it's incredible to see how quick Crush can think on his feet and interact with the kids. They also do have a nighttime show called Epcot Forever. It's not running right now. It is supposed to be running through, I believe, the end of September, and then it'll be replaced with Harmonious. I don't know if that's still going to happen or if this show is going to be extended because of the fact that it hasn't been running. We'll just have to see as time goes on that. One of the other things that I absolutely love that happens over the holidays, and I'm really hoping that they're able to do this, is it's the Candlelight Processional. They have a different narrator each night, and it's celebrity narrators every single night, and it takes you through a whole story, and it is a beautiful thing that they do. So it definitely is something that if you have the opportunity to go see it, please do it. It's worth your time, and it's something that sometimes you can get fast passes for, or if you get a dining reservation that can tie with the Candlelight Processional so you can get dedicated seating. You can do a lot of different things to actually get into it and see it and experience it, because there's a lot of different people who narrate it, and there's some absolutely amazing ones. I know Neil Patrick Harris does it. John Stamos does it. Last year, I think Whoopi Goldberg did it last year. They get some really big name celebrities and that do this, and it really is a cool experience. In World Showcase, they do have, in Future World, my notes are backwards with this. In Future World, they do have a few shows as well. First one is Awesome Planet. That's in the Land Pavilion. So inside that Land Pavilion, they have a bunch of different experiences, that being one of them. Soarin' is the other one, then Living with the Land is another one. Plus, they have an absolutely amazing, what's it called, quick service restaurant. I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but it definitely is one that is worth going to see, and it or worth going to eat at, because the food is all really fresh. They make it, you could literally see them making it right behind the stands, as well as the fact that it's a continually evolving menu. So there's definitely things that you can, there's different stations. I think there's 4 different stations you can go to, and the menu continues to evolve, and it really has been very good each time we went. So there's also the Disney Pixar Film Festival. It's about an 18-minute film sequence that shows you 3 or 4 different Disney and Pixar shorts. So the other thing it'll do is it'll generally show you some sort of preview of a movie to come. They also have the Walt Disney Imagineering Experience presents the Epcot Experience. Now, this is something unique that is only going to be there for a short amount of time, because what they're doing is it's actually a show based on what Epcot is becoming. Because Epcot isn't going to be Future World and World Showcase for much longer. It's going to be World Showcase, then it's going to be World Nature, World Earth, and World Space. So it's going to expand out a little bit into different things that definitely are different experiences, and kind of theming it how it is now a little bit, but taking that theming an extra step. So they're not going to be sticking with just the things that are there. The plan is in World Nature, they're adding a Moana water exhibit. In World Space, they're opening up a restaurant, and they're also opening up a few other things as well there. Basically kind of evolving what the theory of Epcot had become when it first opened to something that fits more with what it is becoming now, without really losing that spirit of what Epcot was initially. Some of the shows that you can see over at Hollywood Studios, which Hollywood Studios, I will say, is probably one of the heavier ones as far as shows goes. They have a live stage show, Beauty and the Beast, the Disney Junior Dance Party, which is a lot of fun. And if you have kids that are into those shows, and they definitely a lot of times are when they're under 3, they love Mickey and they love Vampirina and the Lion Guard and those shows, then this is definitely something you want to take them to, because it is a lot of fun. And the kids get to get up and dance. They have a DJ who's teaching them the dances, and it really is a fun experience for the kids, while the adults can kind of sit back and relax a little bit and just enjoy the show a little bit. There's also Disney Movie Magic, which is one of the shows, the nighttime shows that they do on the Chinese theater. They also have a Star Wars one. Right now, they're not running any of them, but right beforehand, I believe they were running the Star Wars one. But they do have 3 different shows that they'll put on the Chinese theater. Also, Fantasmic is an amazing nighttime show. This one is, if you're going to be at Hollywood Studios, you need to stay for this show, because it definitely is an experience. You go into Mickey's dream world, basically, and the villains try to take over, so you get to see a lot of characters in this. There's a lot of different show sequences, and it's something that, yes, generally you want to get there well before the show starts, but it's something, in my opinion, that's definitely worth the wait. There is a way to get around some of those waits, just like many other things. Certain dining packages will give you a preferred seating section, which is dead center then, or just off of center, depending on what time you get there at, that you wouldn't be able to sit in without having those dining reservations. And this is something that for us has always been worth it. We've done Fantasmic, I think, the last 2 times we were there. And it is a really cool show. There's a lot of different technical elements to it that allow it to just evolve into an amazing attraction. Other things that they do, the first time in forever sing-along, if you have kids that are into Frozen, you need to go to this. If you don't have kids that are into Frozen, but they enjoy Disney music, definitely go to this, because it's one that this will appeal to adults and children alike because it's a story that gets told as well. And they have two what they call Arendelle historians that tell the story. And while, yes, there are a lot of jokes that are written for them, they do ad-lib some as well. And it is a really fun experience. And it is pretty funny how they interact with each other. One of the things that is more just if you happen to walk across it, the Green Army Drum Patrol. The Green Army men from the Toy Story movie, they have a drum line that will walk through Toy Story Land, and actually they'll do drum solos and stuff. It's a lot of fun to watch. Last time we caught it, we were waiting in line for Alien Swirling Saucers, and just happened to see them, and so we were able to watch them while we waited in the line. That's one of the other fun things is with that queue being so open and being able to see out, you can actually see things that are going on, not just right in front of you, but in other places as well. Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular is a really fun show. It takes you behind the scenes of movies. This is really what Hollywood Studios was intended to be originally. And I know it's evolved since then, and I have feelings both ways on it changing, but I like that they've kept this in there because it really does take you behind the scenes of the movies in a fun way, and it does have some loud noises and stuff, but it definitely is something that if you want to see how certain things are done in movies, it gives you that opportunity. Voyage of the Little Mermaid is another one. This is a show that was developed back in the 90s, and still you can tell it was because they still use like the laser lights and that sort of stuff, but it's still a fun show, and if your kids like Little Mermaid, then definitely it's worth the watch. There's also Walt Disney Presents, which is more of like a historical piece, as well as Star Wars Launch Bay Theater. And then one of my other favorite shows in Hollywood Studios is Muppet Vision 3D. And I love how they start off the show saying, we're not going to take advantage of all the things of all the 3D effects, and then literally throughout the entire show, they do all of the things that you would expect them to do in a 3D show, especially with Muppets. So I love going to it just because it's a cute show and definitely is something that kids seem to enjoy. Animal Kingdom's another one. This one does not have as many shows, but it does have some outstanding shows. So first of all, Festival of the Lion King. This is something that we hit every single time we go. It is an incredible show that takes you through a bunch of the music. They have gymnasts, they have aerialists, they have stilt walkers, they have, oh my God, the amount of things that they bring into this, it's a treat. It's something that you just visually are encapsulated with. So it definitely is something that's worth going to every single time you go. As well as Finding Nemo the musical. This one is a Broadway style and Broadway quality show. They take you through some stuff with Finding Nemo, and they wrote some new music specifically for this that was not in the movie. Additionally, they have Up, A Great Bird Adventure, as well as It's Tough to Be a Bug. And like we talked about before, just be warned, It's Tough to Be a Bug can be scary for some kids. This may not be the best thing for the 1.5-year-old. We did scar our children with it, but that doesn't mean you have to. It was a really fun show, and it does encapsulate all of your senses. So they do take advantage of every single one of your senses on this one. Now, moving on to the rides, there's a lot of rides that kids can do. So again, I'm not going to get into all these, but a bunch of the Magic Kingdom, first of all, they have, It's a Small World. Now, I know not everybody's a huge fan of It's a Small World. That's okay. But what I will say is It's a Small World, it has a historical value in the parks that you wouldn't see in other aspects. And the reason I say that is because this was at the 64 World's Fair. This one actually is the one that was there. The one at Disneyland was designed for Disneyland. This one was brought from the World's Fair to here, and then they just themed the outside of it. So I find that amazing that they brought all this to here, and just knowing the historical value of it makes me enjoy it a little more. Other ones they have are Astro Orbiter. This is for lack of a better word, it's a Dumbo style ride. It's the spoken wheel. The only difference is you're about 30 feet up because you take an elevator up just like you would when you're getting on a spaceship. And then you walk across the platform and you get into your vehicle. For me, I get a little motion sick on this one. And I think it's just because of the height, but I know how much Nello loves it, and I think Juliana enjoys it as well. I don't remember if she even went on it last time when Nello and I did, but definitely it's a cool way to view the park because you can see a long way with this. You can see into the hub, you can see all the way through Tomorrowland, and you can actually see into Storybook Circus and some other places as well because of how high up you are. So that part I do enjoy a lot, but for me the motion is not really where I go with that. Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin is one that it's basically like a laser shooting game. It is one that definitely you can have a lot of fun with, competing with the people in your car or the people in your party. I, being the Disney addict that I am, have studied where to find the best one to hit. And I still have not been. I know there's people that max out their score every single time, which is 999,999. I've only done that when the ride has actually stopped. Outside of that, I have not been able to max it out yet. It is a goal of mine, so I go on it every time just because I want to do that at some point. But yeah, I haven't been able to do it yet. Other rides, there's Dumbo's Flying Elephant, and this is that prototypical. This is the ride that you see in every single Disney commercial, and it is kind of cooler to go with your child that's not 3 years old yet because they see it a totally different way, and it is a different experience, and it's a lot of fun, and it really is kind of cool to see the expressions on their face when they're on this ride match what you're seeing in the commercials. It's one of those times where reality actually does match fantasy a lot of times because they're enamored by this and the fact that they get to go up and down and they're going around and they're flying on the elephant. They get to go super high as they believe it is, even though really you're like 10 feet up, 15 feet up. It feels miles up for them, and they're on this flying elephant, so it's really cool. Other ones, the Jungle Cruise. I love this ride, let's be honest. This ride is filled with dad jokes. How can you not love a ride filled with dad jokes? As a dad, it just gives me more ammo, which I'm sure my kids love. But for me, it's definitely something that it's a fun for all ages. And the animatronic animals in it, the kids love seeing those, and they don't always know what's happening. Whereas, like me being on it 15 times so far in my life, probably easily. I definitely know what's coming up around every turn, but the kids don't because they haven't been on it as many times. One I have actually never done, and this is on my checklist to do next time, is the Liberty Boat Riverboat, or Liberty Square Riverboat. This is the paddle wheel boat that goes around Liberty Square and Adventureland. Or I'm sorry, Frontierland. And it's something that you don't see every day. It's not something you can experience every day. It's supposed to kind of give you that riverboat feeling that you would see if you were going down the Mississippi River. I may have done it when I was younger. I don't remember. I feel like I did at one point, but it's not something that really sticks out. So it's something that I want to do again because I really want to really experience it and remember more of it. Mad Tea Party doesn't have a height restriction. It also doesn't have a Brett riding it because that's not happening. Tammy and the kids ride this one. I don't do spinning, so this doesn't happen for me. Peter Pan's Flight is this is actually the most popular ride in the park still. It has the longest wait times out of everything almost routinely every day. The only thing that really surpasses it in Magic Kingdom is Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. So it definitely is a very popular ride, and I understand why. They put a lot of different features into it. And it is a different type of ride vehicle because it's attached at the top and not at the bottom, designed to make you feel like you're flying. And it really is cool. The Pirates of the Caribbean is a ride that actually was not supposed to be part of Disney World. There was never plans. The Imagineers thought, oh, well, Florida's too close to the Caribbean, so people aren't going to want to go on this ride. And then all of a sudden, when people who had been to Disneyland were showing up at Disney World during that first year, they're like, well, where's the Pirates ride? We need to go on the Pirates ride. Well, there wasn't one at that time. So then they had to design one to fit in the space that they had. And that's why, if you notice, this ride is actually 5 minutes shorter than the one in Disneyland because they didn't plan on having this in Disney World. And then they had to find a way to fit it in. So I think they did a great job, and they definitely tell the story. My preference is always the Disneyland version, but this definitely is a different experience than that, and it gives you it gives you the full story still, basically. There's also the carousel. We don't miss the carousel. We do it every time, and mainly because we have 5 minutes to kill. Let's go on this. But again, I could say it's just a carousel, but it's not. It's a Disney carousel. You're right smack dab in the middle of Disney World. You can see the castle as you go around. You can see all the things that are themed to the castle. They put up a castle wall at the back of it even. So it definitely makes you feel like you're riding a castle or riding a carousel inside a castle, which is a fun thing to do. Haunted Mansion. If your kids are easily scared, don't take them on it. If they're not easily scared, definitely take them on it because it's something that, or take them on it early and then take them on a lot of fun rides so that way they forget that they went on it because it's something you definitely want to do because it is that quintessential Disney ride. Then in a future episode, I'll go more into the backstory of Haunted Mansion and how they designed it, but they had two Imagineers that came from completely different backgrounds that did this. And you can see the different influences of both of them throughout the entire ride. Enchanted Carpets with Aladdin, that is just like Dumbo, except you're on magic carpets, and you also get the ability to tilt back and forth. And I know Juliana loves this because mainly I get squirted with water every time. I can't explain how it's always me. It's not anybody in the front seat. It's me in the back seat. And it's not, somehow it hits me every single time we go on it. And I don't know how. It must be something in my magic band that just tells the camel to spit on me. But I get nailed every time. And the kids find it hilarious, and Tammy finds it hilarious. Many Adventures of the Winnie the Pooh. This is a dark ride themed around Winnie the Pooh. There's also the People Mover, which is probably one of the more, it's less underrated than it was 5 years ago because I think a lot of people are starting to see the value in it and the fun in it. You get to see Tomorrowland from a different height. You get to see it. It's a different experience. You get to actually go through Space Mountain. You get to get a bird's eye view of part of Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger spin. And it generally doesn't have a long wait. Generally, you just walk right on. Or it's like a 5-10 minute wait, which 5-10 minutes in Disney World means you're walking on, basically. So it's definitely something I enjoy doing every single time. The other thing is it's a very relaxing ride. You're just sitting there kind of looking out over the park. So it's something that if you need to take a breather, it's definitely a spot you can do it. And then the last ride that they have is Journey of the Little Mermaid. So there are a lot of things to do with smaller kids in Magic Kingdom. The one that I didn't bring up is the Walt Disney World Railroad, and that's because currently it's under construction. As they're building Tron, the Walt Disney World Railroad has to go through Tron. So they have to redo the tracks and everything because they can't go outside of it because there's nowhere to really put it. And they can't go inside it, or they can't go on the near side of it because there's no space for it. And it'd be going right through the middle of Tomorrowland then, which you don't want to do either. So instead, they're actually building a tunnel through Tron, which the Disney World Railroad will go on. But for the short term, unfortunately, because of that, it is shut down. Now, some of the rides you can go at Epcot, Frozen Ever After. This is within the top two to three attractions as far as wait times goes in Epcot. And this is the only one of those that doesn't have a height restriction. So if you're going and they're doing fast passes at that time and you want to go on this is definitely the tier one that you want to go for. If this isn't something that's a huge draw to you, there are other tier ones that you could do that would be maybe more preferable to you. One that we go on every time, and this is partially just because it generally has virtually no wait, is the Grand Fiesta Boat Tour starring the Three Caballeros. And the Three Caballeros, it's Donald and Panchito, and I can't remember the other one. And you think I would, since it's been on repeat in our house because my son has found it on Disney Plus and absolutely loves it. But it takes you through the Mexican pavilion, and it's screen based sometimes. There's other times where they have animatronics and stuff, and it is a cute little ride, and it definitely gives you that break from the heat for a few minutes, and something that doesn't have a height restriction, so that makes it all that much easier to not have to worry about everybody going on. There's also Journey into Imagination with Figment. This one, the only thing I would say is just beware. There are some loud noises and bright lights a couple times. So as long as you're okay with that, then definitely this is another one that you can get on pretty easily. I mean, the longest wait I've ever seen on this, and this includes when we were there over New Year's Eve and everything, was I think it got up to 35 minutes. So it doesn't ever have a long wait. It's something generally you can walk on, and it's something, again, it's a ride to give you that respite from the heat. My favorite ride in Epcot is Living with the Land. It fits with what the theory of Epcot was supposed to be, with the edutainment, so the education and the entertainment all put together. I love the fact that it does that, and it really is an entertaining ride, but gives you some understanding of where the food in Epcot's coming from, because some of the food that they grow there, they're serving in Four Seasons, and they're also serving in Garden Grill, which are the two restaurants inside the Land Pavilion. So it gives you that opportunity to eat that food and also see where it's coming from. Spaceship Earth is the icon of the park. That's, as people call it, the big golf ball. As you ride this ride, you become kind of more amazed that everything that you see is actually inside of that ball, because there's quite a few show scenes that you get to see inside of there. They are still talking about doing some sort of refurbishment with this. It hasn't started yet, so it is still open. I know it's changed a couple times what they're actually going to be doing, just because of, especially with everything going on. I believe that's the biggest reason why it's postponed, is because it was supposed to undergo like a full year-long refurbishment. Well, they have a lot of construction going on in Epcot right now. And then to combine that with the fact that they just went months without people in the parks, they're pushing off the non-essential construction, I think, so that way then they can focus on the essential stuff. And then finally, there's The Seas with Nemo and Friends. This is basically taking you into the movie Finding Nemo, and you're under the water. You get to see a bunch of the characters and stuff, and they do a cool thing with some of the projection where they actually project on glass that is looking into the aquarium, so it looks like Dory is swimming in the aquarium with all these other fish. So it was a cool idea to actually come up with that. Hollywood Studios, like we talked about before, was it for younger kids and for people who don't hit the height restrictions. It's much more heavy on the shows. There are a few rides though that you can go on. One of which is Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy. This is actually more of a show, but they classify it as a ride, so I kind of put it in here too. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is another one. This one actually is the newest ride in Disney World. They've implemented some new technology with it to expand the actual experience. And then finally, Toy Story Mania is the other one. This is another like arcade style game. I personally like this one a little better than Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin, but they each have their own merits, and being that they're in different parks, I don't have to choose between one or the other. So one to keep in mind is Alien Swirling Saucers is only a 32-inch height requirement. So depending on the height of your party, there's a lot of times that younger kids can go on that as well. And then the final park as far as rides goes, we have Animal Kingdom. So we have Navi River Journey, which takes you through Pandora. And being that my kids enjoy that movie, I think that it was a cool experience to actually have, is seeing that bioluminescent force come to life and seeing the shaman, which is the most intricate working animatronic in all of Disney World. And the reason I emphasize working is because the Yeti that is in what's it called? Expedition Everest is actually the most intricate, but unfortunately it's not working anymore. They've turned it off because it's in what they call B mode, because of the fact that it was damaging the foundation of the actual ride. So they use light techniques and other things now to make it look like the Yeti's moving as opposed to it actually being moving. Triceratops Spin is another one. This one is a spoken wheel, again, just like Dumbo, just like the Magic Carpets. They have this one, but it's themed to Dino USA. Also, there's the Wildlife Express train. Some people may not classify this as a ride per se because it's taking you from one place to another, but the main reason I do is there are things you see along the way. And also, there's some kids that really want to ride a train, and right now this is the only one in Disney World, so I'm classifying it as a ride. And then the icon of this park is Kilimanjaro Safari. There's no doubt about it. This was the ride that Walt Disney wanted to build. He wanted the Jungle Cruise to include live animals, but trying to figure out the logistics of containing those animals so they don't eat the guests and also keeping them in the correct spots, they weren't able to do it at that time. But then when Animal Kingdom was built, Kilimanjaro Safaris really kind of built on that theory and expanded it tenfold. Kilimanjaro Safari is actually as big, almost as big as the entire rest of Animal Kingdom. It is bigger than Hollywood Studios all by itself. It is an incredibly massive ride that you get to go through and see all of these animals. And one of the pro tips that I would give you is try to do it in the morning. The animals are much more likely to be active in the morning than when the heat kicks up during the day. So if you go in the morning, then all of a sudden you get to see the lions moving around a little bit. You get to see the zebras, the herd is migrating. The giraffes will literally walk in front of the vehicle and not really care if you're going. They will just make you stop. So I have an incredible photo of Juliana, which I shared when we did our Animal Kingdom overview of the giraffe walking literally inches from the vehicle and her just being surprised because it walked up behind her. So it definitely is something that I would say is 100% worth doing that. And now, the only other things that we have to talk about are just some of the other things that Disney does to enhance the experience of younger kids and also people who aren't hitting height restrictions. The first one, and this is the one that I hinted at the beginning of the show, is there's an experience you can do because there is a barber shop on Main Street. You can actually book your child's first haircut at Disney World. And with that, it's $25 plus tax. It's not expensive by any stretch compared to what you would think you would be paying at Disney. You get the haircut. They get a commemorative Mickey ears hat. They get a keepsake lock of the hair, as well as an official milestone certificate. So it's a cool thing that they do that you really don't see it. You would never see this in another amusement park. It's not something that happens. And it's because of the fact that Disney's built on the generations coming back together. So because they have that, they've instituted this as well. I actually have a goal at some point to actually get my haircut on Main Street because they do men's haircuts as well. So I really want to do that at some point. But we'll see what happens. Some of the other things they do, there's some interactive things. There's a Pirate's Adventure, which is a scavenger hunt through Adventureland. They also do Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom, which takes you through all of Magic Kingdom on this hunt to find these 4 crystal shards to defeat these Disney villains. There's also Tom Sawyer Island, which is basically just the biggest playground a kid can play on. They can run all over the place. There's the forts, there's the caves, there's so many different things that they can run through and just kind of bring up some energy. Snoop Family Treehouse. This is one that I did find benefited from us showing our kids the movie first, so they understood what we were doing. But it's definitely an experience to walk through that. If you've seen the movie, it's a a little bit surreal because it's like, oh well, yeah, that's exactly how they laid this stuff out. And then if you need a break from the heat, but you don't want to go to like an air conditioned area, there's also Casey Jr. Splash and Soak Station. So in Storybrooke Circus, there's this area right in the middle that water can squirt out at the kids. They can run around and play and not have to worry about getting wet or making a mess or anything. And it's an alternative to going back to the hotel and getting in the pool. It does give them that ability to cool off without actually having to be going back and getting in the pool. Epcot has a couple of different experiences that are definitely interesting. First of all, Epcot is the festival center for Disney World. So whether it's food and wine, flower and garden, the arts festival, or festival of the arts, sorry, they do all those festivals. And while that may not sound like it's a kid's thing, and it isn't per se, if you have a younger child that is eating and willing to try foods, like my daughter was until she grew up a little more, it definitely is something that they can try different things and you guys can experience different things and have that experience of still being at the parks. Other things they do, they have the sea base and the aquarium. That one, oh my gosh, it is the second largest aquarium in the U.S., only behind Atlanta. And the amount of different things they can plan, the amount of different animals they can see it and identify, it does make for a fun experience that you don't have to be outside to get. Additionally, we have a bunch of different character meet and greets in Hollywood Studios. Epcot doesn't have many meet and greets right now, mainly because of the fact that it's just the meet and greets aren't happening right now, but also because of all the construction, they had to take down some of them. So there are some across the parks, but not normal like what you would normally see. Hollywood Studios, on the other hand, you have the Disney Junior Courtyard where you can meet Vampirina, you can meet, all of a sudden I forgot the other ones. Also, you can meet Sully from Monsters, Inc. You can meet The Incredibles. You can go to meet the toys in Toy Story Land. You can also meet Mickey and Minnie, as well as some Star Wars characters in Hollywood Studios. So there are a bunch of different meet and greets you can do there. Animal Kingdom, being that it's lower on the amount of rides and attractions and things like that, they do a lot of other things. They have 4 different walking zoos. So you can walk through the Discovery Island, through Gorilla Falls, the Maharaja Jungle Trek, and Oasis exhibits. So you can see a lot of different animals. And this is a great one for little kids because they love seeing the animals. It's a great one for me too, let's be honest. I love seeing the animals as well. But a lot of kids are enamored by seeing live animals. And this gives you that opportunity to see a lot of them without having the glass between you because they use physical barriers that you don't always see, as opposed to having a glass barrier that you have to look through glass to see them. They also do have some meet and greets, like Mickey and Minnie's Adventure Outpost. You can also meet Pocahontas, Russell and Doug, and Timon and Rafiki. But some of the other things that I like that they do, they bring in a lot of music to this because the areas that they're focused on with this have a lot of musical tradition. So, for example, they have the Tam Tam drummers of Harambe. They also have the Pandora drummers. Because especially in Africa, because the music is such a core part of the culture in the area they're focusing on, that's why they bring in these drummers, and it's a lot of music that plays through that area. One cool thing though is if that music isn't playing, keep your ear out. You're going to hear a lot of different things that aren't the people around you. They actually have noises in what look like apartments above you where you can actually hear people talking back and forth. So it's a different thing that you wouldn't normally know, and you don't hear a lot of times because they generally have music going and all that. But if the music isn't going at any point, definitely listen out for it because it is cool to kind of catch that stuff. The last couple things, there is the boneyard. So in Dino Land USA, it's a huge play area. The kids can dig for bones, and they can try to find their fossils and everything. And they definitely can run around and burn off a little energy if need be. The other one that happens more towards the evening and nighttime is the Tree of Life Awakenings. This is little mini vignettes that they do on the tree, actually bringing the animals to life. So it's something that you don't always catch, but if you happen to be running across it, it's definitely something I would stop and watch, because watching the animals come to life on the actual tree is very unique, because it's not something that anywhere else they'd really kind of come up with the thought to do it, and B, the technology to do it. So I do want to thank you all for joining in today. I know that this was a little bit longer than what I normally do, but I didn't want to cut this into multiple episodes, because if you are going, or if you do want to plan a trip for a little one and your family, then it kind of gives you all of it in one chunk. Please note, this isn't all the information. I do my best to give you the most pertinent information and the most complete information possible. But there's always things that we can talk about. There's always things that we can explore how to make your vacation more magical for you and your family. So, like I've said in the past, let me help you. I study this stuff so you don't have to. My goal is to make you look like a rock star while you're on that trip, because you decided to plan with me. Please reach out to me, whether it's via Facebook. My phone number and my email address are both on my Creating Magic Vacations with Brett page, and I'd love to help you plan a trip. So thank you all for watching this, and we'll see you all again real soon.